Hello, this is I Go Travel with Don Barnett. We're rolling around this Vancouver area, Vancouver and Whistler, but in this video, we're going to get off the beaten track and head out into the backcountry. Come along. The British Columbia coast, you just can't beat it for scenery. We've rolled around this part of the country a few times. Big mountains, snow-packed in the wintertime, just beautiful, beautiful scenery. We spent quite a bit of time in the Vancouver area, and 90% of the traffic that enjoys the scenic coast north of Vancouver goes up this road here to Whistler. On this video, we came from the east on Highway 1 and came to the community of Cache Creek, went a little bit north on Highway 97, made a left-hand turn, and came through the dry country, Lillooet and the Fraser River area from the north. The interior of BC is quite dry, and you'll see in the video we show you that it becomes more green and more moist as we approach the coastline in the Pemberton and Whistler areas. We are in the dry interior. That's the Fraser River Valley country, and it's quite dry. Nice big lakes in this part of the country. And the Fraser River is the only river that flows, it's the largest river that flows entirely within British Columbia. Road construction continually needs attention in the mountains. Just look at the countryside here. It's starting to look a little bit greener as we move toward the coast. It was springtime and the water was just starting to flow. And it was carrying all kinds of silt and mud with it and knocking down trees along its route. This was a waterfall right beside the highway, and the water poured down underneath the highway and headed for Downer Hill and eventually to the Pacific Ocean. We tend to stay in provincial campgrounds like this one, do a little camping and fire and cook a meal outside. This campground was called Nairn Falls for a reason, and the water seemed to be in a hurry to get somewhere. The walk from the campground was about 1 kilometer and not too steep, and the path was fairly good, but you wanted to stay on it. Every once in a while you run across a few safety signs like these. I often wonder about those little bear bells that tinkle. I've heard that that alerts the bear that lunch is coming up the trail. It would be a one-way street to slide down into this cold, icy water, but not much danger of that. The viewing area below the falls was nice and safe and well guarded with gates and fence. The route north along the coast from Vancouver to Pemberton was the early fur trade route from the interior. And this settlement was established long before anyone got any ideas about Whistler becoming a world-class tourist destination. A little bit later, this route up through Pemberton and these lakes tended to fall in disfavor of the route along the big river here. But remember, I did a video on this wicked canyon here, Hell's Gate, and it was difficult to get through. And it was hot in the interior here, very difficult to carry the heavy furs. So in the early days, like I say, the fur trade tended to go this way. These two lakes at one time was one solid lake, but a huge avalanche over 100 years ago in the middle of the lake split the two lakes into two parts that we call Anderson Lake today, and the other lake is Seton Lake. Over time, the Fraser River route became more popular than the route straight north through Pemberton. And the Fraser River route, once they built a wagon road around the wicked Hell's Gate Canyon area, and they eventually continued that wagon road called the Caribou Wagon Road all the way to Barkerville, where the real big gold was found at that time. People started to forget about the Pemberton route. We stopped at the museum and found that those who had stayed in the area discovered the fertile soil up the Pembinaw Valley. And it was great for growing vegetables, particularly potatoes. In fact, some claim that the famous Idaho potato originated right here in the Pembinaw Valley. The soil was fertile, and the potatoes were free from any kind of a disease that really affected potatoes grown elsewhere. The museum had this old-time potato planter on display. And this was the old-time potato picker. The front of the machine dug up the new potatoes and carried them on this treadmill to be dumped on the ground or into a wagon that followed the picker. As we drove up the valley, we saw more modern, bigger potato pickers like these parked in farmyards along the highway. We drove up the valley, this road here represented by this line, about for, I'm guessing, 40 or 50 kilometers. Like I said, as we drove up the valley, we saw a lot of farmyards that seemed to be located right along the two-lane paved highway. And they had signs out saying produce was for sale and farm tours were welcome. It was a great opportunity for people and kids to see firsthand a piece of farm life. The highway ran along the center of the valley. We met a few machines along the highway. They were family-level farms, some older machinery, and they specialized in seed potatoes. And these were some of the machines ready to go for the fall. The main crop seemed to be hay. And there were hay bales in the fields. I think that larger buildings like these were for storing machinery and for the seed potatoes. This was an old-time area, and you saw old buildings as well. You could see how the valley was narrowing as we headed in the northwest direction. Some areas were getting irrigated. I imagined it would be the seed potato field areas. There was irrigation in the mountains. We also drove by a dairy farm operation. The cattle were free-ranging, eating grass out in the field. It was not a high-intense dairy operation, but it was country living. A few places offered horse training and trail rides. The valley contained both farmers and cowboys. At one time, a lot of lumbering had occurred in the valley, as was often the case in many mountain valleys. A rail line up the valley had been established, hauling supplies in and both timber and minerals out. Part of the little museum in Pemberton contained these old railway carts and numerous items from the old railway days. The first railway through the area from Vancouver was the private Pacific Great Eastern Line. Eventually, it was bought out and called the BC Railway. Finally, the federal government bought out these smaller lines like this and called the whole thing what we know of as today the Canadian National Railway. It still operates and includes a line for the famous Canadian tourist line called the Rocky Mountaineer that currently runs between Vancouver and Jasper, Alberta. You can buy a ticket today and get on this line. Just to summarize the history of the Pemberton area, it started off in the early days as a fur trade route from the north. And lumbering became more established as more people came by, and agriculture developed, particularly in the potatoes, seed disease-free potatoes. And today they have moved more into tourism. Pemberton has served as a bedroom community for workers in the more expensive Whistler area. People can't afford to live in Whistler, so the workers have found accommodation and a living in Pemberton. Well, there you have it. I like to get off the main street and the main places once in a while. Hope you enjoyed it, and there's a whole lot more to see in this area. This is I Go Travel with Don Barnett. Hit the subscribe button, and that'll tell you when we're putting more videos up on the internet. Until then, we'll see you down the trail. To find those other videos, Google my channel. Like it says in the bottom there, Google the little @ Don Barnett 5090. Click my name, hit the word playlists in the middle of the page, and scroll down and select your playlist. Each playlist contains several travel videos.